The DISCOV of the observation deck of the research vessel Pathfinder stretched across 3 levels, offering an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Commander Marcus Chun stood motionless, his weathered hands pressed against the cold transparisteel, studying the dead planet rotating slowly below. In all his 40 years of space exploration, Marcus had never seen anything quite like this. The world below was impossible. It shouldn't exist here. According to every astronomical database in human space, this sector held no planets. It held no stars, no asteroids, nothing but empty void. Yet here it was, a blue-green marble turning through the darkness like a ghost. The signal that had brought them here still sang through the Pathfinder's communication systems, a haunting melody of mathematical precision and electromagnetic pulses. It had been discovered 3 weeks ago by the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Mars. At first, the artificial intelligence had classified it as cosmic noise, background radiation with no real meaning. But Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, the ship's chief scientist and resident genius, had recognized something the machines had missed. The signal contained intention. It held purpose. Someone had sent this message deliberately, knowing that eventually someone would find it. Sarah entered the observation deck carrying 2 cups of coffee, their steam rising lazily in the recycled air. She was half Marcus's age, but twice as brilliant, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the universe around her. She handed Marcus one of the cups and stood beside him, looking down at the planet. "The mineral composition is stabilizing," Sarah said, reading from her handheld display. "I've run the analysis 5 times. The readings are consistent. That world has been isolated from the normal space-time continuum for approximately 15,000 years. The energy signature that maintains the isolation is incredibly sophisticated. Whoever built it understood physics far beyond our current knowledge." Marcus nodded slowly. They had already reported their findings to Earth and to the Galactic Coalition, the governing body that humans had joined just 50 years ago. The response from the Coalition had been immediate and forceful. "Do not land. Do not investigate. Return immediately to Coalition space." The message had come with an official seal, backed by the authority of the Elder Species Council. 7 ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia did not want humans touching this world. "The Coalition contacted me directly," Sarah continued. "They're sending a patrol ship to intercept us in 6 days. They've also threatened to revoke our exploration license if we proceed with the landing." Marcus took a long sip of coffee. It was bitter, just the way he liked it. Behind them, through the observation window, the planet continued its silent rotation. The signal continued its endless mathematical song. Somewhere down there, someone or something had sent a message across the vast gulf of 15,000 years, hoping that someone would hear it, hoping that someone would understand. "They're afraid," Marcus said quietly. "The Coalition is afraid of this place." Sarah smiled, a slight upturn of her lips that showed her agreement. "Fear makes beings do strange things. It makes them hide truth. It makes them deny knowledge. The message we're receiving contains language patterns, Marcus. Complex ones. Whoever sent this wanted to communicate, not just broadcast random signals." The decision that Marcus made in that moment would change everything. He turned away from the window and looked at Sarah with steady determination in his eyes. In his 30 years with the Coalition, Marcus had learned that rules were often made by those in power to protect their power. Rules were not always truth. Truth was sometimes dangerous. Truth was sometimes worth more than obedience. "We have 5 days before the patrol ship arrives," Marcus said. "Get a landing team ready. Full equipment. We're going down there." Sarah's eyes widened slightly. Then she smiled. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for Marcus to make exactly this choice. "I was hoping you would say that." The landing shuttle descended through the planet's thin atmosphere in controlled silence. Marcus sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him were 8 members of the landing team, each one hand-picked for their expertise and their ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. There was Dr. James Kwan, a linguist and expert in deciphering alien languages. There was Dr. Amara Okafor, a physicist who had written the textbook on exotic energy sources. There was Captain Lise Reyes, a security expert who had served in conflict zones across 3 star systems. And there was Sarah, because Marcus would not have trusted anyone else to be the first human to step foot on this mysterious world dot. As they descended, the planet's features became clearer. It was beautiful in a haunting way, with vast oceans the color of sapphires and continents covered in vegetation that ranged from deep purple to brilliant gold. There were mountains that scraped the upper atmosphere, and valleys so deep that clouds never reached their floors. It was a world designed for life, and yet it appeared to be completely empty. No cities, no structures, no signs of civilization whatsoever. Radiation levels nominal, Amara reported from her station. Atmospheric composition is breathable. No detected biological threats in the landing zone. The shuttle touched down in a valley beside a perfectly flat expanse of black stone that looked absolutely unnatural against the natural landscape surrounding it. Marcus had immediately recognized it for what it was. A landing platform. Whoever had built the isolation field had also built infrastructure. They had planned for visitors. The team emerged from the shuttle in full environmental suits, though Amara's readings suggested the suits were unnecessary. But Marcus had learned to respect caution. The ocean breeze that touched their helmets carried the scent of salt and alien flowers. The sky above was a brilliant purple blue, with 3 moons visible even in daylight. Everything was wrong in exactly the right way, beautiful and terrifying and utterly alien. There, Sarah pointed toward the far edge of the platform, where the stone seemed to rise upward. As they approached, a structure began to reveal itself, as if the building itself had been invisible until they looked at it the right way. It was enormous, built from the same black stone as the platform, with walls that seemed to curve in directions that hurt to look at directly. The architecture defied conventional geometry. It was clearly artificial, clearly built with intention, and clearly beyond anything humans had ever encountered. James Kwan approached the building's entrance, and his handheld device began to chime. "There's language here," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "Carved into the stone. Multiple languages. I can see symbols from at least 7 different writing systems, some of which I've never encountered before." One symbol was at the very center of the entrance, larger than the others. It was simple yet elegant. A circle of light with a human shape standing at its center. Marcus felt his breath catch. Someone down here had known what humans looked like. Someone down here had been expecting humans to find this place. "The signal is coming from inside," Amara said, pointing her sensor array at the building. "The source is deep underground. There are massive energy generators maintaining the isolation field. The technology is remarkably stable. It's been operating without maintenance for thousands of years." Marcus made a decision. He approached the entrance and placed his gloved hand against the black stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality sighing, the stone rippled. The entrance opened like a mouth, and a pathway of soft light emerged, extending down into the darkness below. The air that escaped from the opening was cool, and somehow alive with possibility. Sarah moved to stand beside Marcus. "Whatever is down there sent out a signal across 15,000 years, she said. It was patient. It was waiting. It knew that eventually someone would come." Marcus nodded and took the first step into the light. Behind him, one by one, the team followed. As they descended deeper into the structure, the walls around them came to life with bioluminescent patterns, creating a pathway through the darkness. The technology was not mechanical like human engineering. It was something different, something organic, something that seemed to bridge the gap between biology and machinery in ways that seemed impossible. They had traveled, perhaps, 200 meters when the passage opened into a vast chamber. What they saw there stopped them in their tracks. The chamber was massive, stretching perhaps a kilometer in all directions. And in that chamber, covering every wall and surface, was knowledge. Libraries of it. Data organized in 3 dimensions, with information flowing like water through crystalline structures that hung in midair. The signal was loudest here, emanating from a central platform that rose from the chamber floor. Sarah approached the platform slowly, her scientific mind struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. "This is a data repository," she breathed. "Every wall is a storage mechanism. Every crystal is holding information. There's more knowledge here than in every human computer system combined, more than in every coalition database. This is a message," James finished, his linguist's brain already working to decode the symbols floating in the air around them. "This is a message left by a civilization that wanted us to find this place." Marcus stepped onto the central platform, and immediately the entire chamber erupted with light and sound. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing him worlds being built and then destroyed. He saw cities of crystalline beauty, constructed by beings of pure intellect. He saw wars fought with weapons that bent space itself. He saw a civilization at the height of its power making a desperate choice. A choice to preserve their knowledge, to hide it away, to send a signal into the future, hoping that someday someone worthy would find it. And he saw something else. He saw the threat that had destroyed them, a force that moved through space like a predator, consuming everything in its path. A force that had hunted the ancient civilization across stars and galaxies, never stopping, never resting, never accepting failure. The signal suddenly changed frequency, becoming almost urgent in its intensity. In the holographic display, Marcus saw the force moving through space toward this sector of the galaxy. It was still out there, still hunting, still coming. How long until it arrives? Marcus asked the empty chamber, not really expecting an answer. But the holographic display flickered, and numbers appeared. 2 years. Perhaps less. The ancient civilization had left one final message. The threat had gone dormant, but it was waking. And when it woke, it would come here, seeking the knowledge it had once tried to destroy. The door to the chamber suddenly sealed with a sound like a great beast closing its teeth. On the Pathfinder above, alarms began to blare. A coalition battle fleet was moving to intercept the planet, weapons armed, with orders to destroy the research vessel and prevent any information from leaving. Marcus looked at his team, and he saw fear and determination in equal measure in their eyes. They were humans, small and fragile compared to the ancient civilizations that had come before. But they were also adaptable, resourceful, and willing to face the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. In that moment, Marcus understood what the ancient civilization had been trying to tell them. They had left this knowledge not for the established powers of the galaxy, but for a species young enough to still ask questions, brave enough to face danger, and foolish enough to believe that they could make a difference. "Sarah," Marcus said, "I need you to access their database. Download everything. Everything. We need to know what destroyed them. We need to know how to stop it. The coalition fleet is minutes away," Amara warned. Marcus smiled grimly. "Then we better move fast." The truth Arrive the Pathfinder accelerated away from the planet's surface, with the coalition battle fleet in pursuit, their weapons painting targets across human shields. Marcus sat in the captain's chair, his jaw clenched with concentration, as he pushed the ship's engines beyond their rated limits. Behind them, the gravity well of the dead world created a temporary barrier that slowed the coalition ships, but only barely. They had maybe 20 minutes before the first weapons would be in range dot in the research lab. Sarah worked with the intensity of someone trying to hold back a tidal wave with her bare hands. Banks of computers hummed and whined as they processed the data she had downloaded from the ancient facility. It was like trying to teach a newborn infant to understand quantum physics. The data was there, vast beyond comprehension, but translating it into something human minds could process was proving nearly impossible. The ancient civilization used computational methods that operated on principles humans were still discovering. James Quan worked beside her, his linguistic expertise struggling against symbols and languages that predated human civilization by eons. "There's a pattern here," he said, pointing to his display where cascading streams of alien text flowed like a waterfall. "The structure of their languages is fundamentally different from ours, but there are underlying principles that seem universal. Mathematical constants, physical laws, as if knowledge itself follows patterns that all intelligence eventually discovers." "That's because it does," Sarah replied without taking her eyes from her work. She had finally broken through the initial encryption layers of the database. What lay beneath was staggering in its complexity and clarity. "Look at this. This is their history, recorded in a format that bypasses language entirely. They're showing us through pure concept transference. They're showing us what happened to them. What unfolded before their eyes was both terrible and beautiful." The ancient civilization, the one that had built the repository, had called themselves the architects. They had existed for over 3 million years, during which they had achieved a level of technological and philosophical advancement that made them appear godlike compared to current galactic standards. They had built worlds. They had seeded life across 1,000 planets. They had achieved a form of immortality by uploading their consciousness into quantum substrates, achieving perfect preservation of memory and identity. They had believed they had transcended the limitations that bound lesser species, but something else existed in the universe. Something older, something that predated even the architects. In the ancient records, they called it the Devourer. It was not a ship or a weapon. It was a force of nature, a fundamental expression of entropy given physical form. It was intelligent, in the way that a gravity well is intelligent, moving through space and consuming everything in its path, not out of malice, but out of necessity. It fed on advanced civilizations, on complex consciousness, on the organized patterns of thought and technology. It was impossible to fight because it did not operate on physical principles that conventional weapons could affect. It existed partially outside normal space-time, touching reality only to feed. The architects had first encountered the Devourer 30,000 years ago. They had watched it destroy 6 other civilizations across the galaxy. They had tried to hide from it, to flee it, to outsmart it. But the Devourer was patient and relentless. It could not be destroyed because it was not truly alive in the way other beings understood life. It was more like a quantum phenomenon, a manifestation of the universe's tendency toward disorder. "The Devourer is coming here," Sarah whispered, reading the final sections of the ancient record. The architects realized they couldn't defeat it militarily, so they did something else entirely. They created a trap. This entire world, the isolation field, the repository of knowledge, it's all bait. They're using knowledge as a lure. "That doesn't make sense," James said. "Why would they want to attract something that destroys them?" "Because knowledge is what attracts the Devourer," Sarah explained, her voice filled with dawning understanding. "The more advanced a civilization becomes, the brighter its consciousness shines to the Devourer." The architects realized that they couldn't stop it from coming. So they did something revolutionary. They prepared a successor, a species that would continue their work, A species that could do what they could not. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Marcus was receiving real-time updates of the Coalition fleet's position. They were close now, so close that he could see individual ship designations through the forward sensors. The Coalition's Supreme Commander had issued a final ultimatum: surrender the ship, empty all databases, and submit to immediate detention. The message included a threat that if they didn't comply, the Coalition would destroy them to prevent any knowledge from leaving the system. Luis Reyes approached Marcus with a grim expression. "The Coalition fleet has begun weapons lockdown sequences," he reported. "They're going to fire in less than 5 minutes. The Pathfinder has good shields, but against this many ships, we'll be debris within a minute of the first volley." Marcus nodded, expecting as much. He had known this would happen. The moment humans had discovered something that the Coalition wanted hidden, they had become a threat. The Coalition was not made up of benevolent ancient civilizations that valued knowledge. They were made up of species that valued control. Whoever controlled information controlled power. Whoever hid the truth controlled the narrative. "Sarah, how much data can you compress in the next 4 minutes?" Marcus asked, opening a communication line to the research lab. "All of it," Sarah responded immediately. "I can compress all of it into a data package small enough to transmit on any communication frequency." "But where would we send it?" "To Earth," Marcus said. "We send it home. We let humanity know what's coming. We let them know what the architects knew. We let them choose what to do with this knowledge." He opened a broadcast channel to Earth, knowing that his message would take weeks to arrive, but confident that when it did, humanity would listen. He began to dictate, transferring all that they had learned into words that humans could understand. He spoke of the architects and their 3-million-year reign. He spoke of the devourer and its relentless hunger. He spoke of the choice that lay before humanity: to hide as the Coalition wanted, to deny knowledge, to play it safe, or to do what the architects had failed to do, to become something greater, to prepare, to grow, to become worthy of the knowledge that had been left for them. "Marcus," Sarah said through the communicator, her voice strained, "the data package is ready. I'm uploading it now. The transmission is encoding. You have approximately 2 minutes before the Coalition fleet closes to firing range." Marcus made a decision in that instant that would echo through human history for millennia to come. He did not attempt to flee. He did not attempt to hide. Instead, he opened channels to every news network on every human world. He did not speak in technical language. He spoke in the language of stories, of history, of humanity's greatest moments. "People of Earth," he began, "my name is Marcus Chun, and I am a deep space explorer serving the human race. I am about to die, and I want you to know why. Because somewhere out there, a force is moving through the universe that will one day reach your world. And when it does, you will need to be ready. You will need to be strong. You will need to be more than the Coalition thinks you are capable of being. The ancient architects left their knowledge to us because they believed in something that the established powers do not. They believed in growth. They believed in potential. They believed in the species that refuses to accept limitations. The Coalition fleet fired. Weapons of extraordinary power carved through the void of space, targeted at the small human vessel. But in that final moment, something impossible happened. The dead world below suddenly came alive. Its isolation field flickered and then expanded, creating a barrier of pure energy that surrounded the Pathfinder. The Coalition weapons struck the barrier and dissipated harmlessly. And then, within the barrier, humans saw something they would never forget. Holographic projections emerged from the ancient repository, visible even from orbit. They showed the entire history of the architects, from their earliest beginnings to their final moments. They showed the devourer. They showed the universe in all its vast complexity and terrible beauty. Louise appeared on the bridge with Sarah, both of them wearing expressions of awe and understanding. The repository's automated systems activated, Sarah said. When Marcus broadcast his message directly to Earth, it recognized that humanity had discovered the knowledge. The repository considers us ready. It's releasing all barriers. All of the architect's knowledge is now available to anyone who can receive it. The coalition fleet withdrew, but not because they had defeated the humans. They withdrew because they realized in that moment what had truly happened. Humanity had been given something that the coalition had spent millennia trying to conceal. Humanity now possessed knowledge that could reshape the galaxy itself. But more importantly, they possessed something else. They possessed hope. The hope that came from knowing that an ancient and advanced civilization had believed in their potential. The hope that came from understanding that even against forces that seemed impossible to defeat, there was always another way forward. The hope that came from recognizing that humanity, despite being young and small and fragile compared to the established powers, was capable of being exactly what the universe needed them to be. As the Pathfinder set course for home, Marcus stood once more at the observation window, looking out at the stars. Behind them, the dead world continued its eternal rotation, now forever marked as the place where humanity's true journey in the galaxy had begun. Not as a junior member of an established coalition, but as inheritors of a legacy that spanned millions of years and multiple civilizations. "We did it," Sarah said, standing beside him. Marcus smiled. "No," he said. "We just began. The real work starts when this data reaches Earth. The coalition will oppose us. The established powers will try to bury this. But they can't stop what's coming now. They can't stop a species that has learned to ask the right questions. They can't stop humans." Far ahead, Earth waited for their return, unaware that everything was about to change. The knowledge of the architects was coming home. The future was arriving. And humanity, despite all odds and all warnings, had chosen to face it with open eyes and open hearts. That was what made them human. That was what made them ready. That was what the architects had always known they would become. Asterisk.